Ma'am, this is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Can you please come outside so we can speak with you?
What do you want from me? Do you have a warrant?
Ma'am, we just want to talk. If you cooperate and step outside, this will go a lot easier.
Before anything else, do you have a warrant?
Ma'am, if you don't come outside, we may be forced to remove you from the residence.
How many of you are out?
The security camera mounted above the front door captures everything in a single unblinking frame. The timestamp reads 9:17 in the evening. The porch light casts a harsh white glow across the concrete steps and the wooden door below. 3 figures stand in tactical formation. 2 on the porch, 1 near the driveway. All 3 wear vests with Immigration and Customs Enforcement insignia printed across the chest in bold letters. Their hands rest near their belts, near radios, near equipment. The posture is deliberate. The positioning is tactical. One agent steps forward. His knock is firm, repetitive, official. "Ma'am, this is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Can you please come outside so we can speak with you?" The door remains closed. No motion inside. No visible response. The agents wait. The camera holds. Then a voice emerges from inside the house, calm but firm. "What do you want from me? Do you have a warrant?" Before we continue, if this kind of detailed breakdown is valuable to you, take a second to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Drop a comment and let us know where in the world you're watching from. The question she asks is the most important question any occupant can ask when law enforcement arrives unannounced. Under the Fourth Amendment, individuals are protected from unreasonable searches and seizures. That protection is strongest inside the home. Without a judicial warrant, explicit consent, or an immediate threat to life, law enforcement generally cannot enter a private residence without violating that constitutional guarantee. Inside this home is a woman who works as a registered nurse. She is a United States citizen. She was brought to this country as a child and has lived here for more than 25 years. She is currently breastfeeding her infant child. This is her home. She lives here legally with her husband. The agents are here because of a tip. Someone reported that a person at this address may be living in the United States without legal authorization. The report does not specify who. It does not provide verifiable evidence. It is enough to generate a visit. It is not enough to generate a warrant signed by a judge. After this encounter, the woman, her husband, and their attorney submitted this footage for further investigation. They sought accountability. They sought review of the agent's conduct. They sought clarity on whether the visit was lawfully initiated and whether the agent's statements constituted coercion. The submission of this footage is itself significant. It reflects an effort to hold the system accountable, to create a record, to demand transparency. The agent on the left shifts his weight. The one on the right glances toward the driveway. The camera captures these movements in real time. There is a brief pause before the response. "Ma'am, we just want to talk. If you cooperate and step outside, this will go a lot easier." The reply does not answer her question. It redirects. Cooperation is framed as beneficial. Resistance is framed as complicating. But the legal reality is more precise. An individual inside their own home has no obligation to open the door, to step outside, or to engage in conversation unless those officers possess lawful authority to compel it. For this woman, the stakes are immediate and personal. She understands that stepping outside means leaving the constitutional protection of her home. It means exposing herself to questioning, to potential detention, to possible separation from her infant. 3 armed federal agents at her door late in the evening is not a neutral request for conversation. It is an assertion of power. The woman repeats her question, this time with added clarity. "Before anything else, do you have a warrant?" The camera holds steady. The agents do not produce a document. They do not reference judicial authorization. Instead, the tone shifts. "Ma'am, if you don't come outside, we may be forced to remove you from the residence." This is a threat. The word forced implies physical action. It suggests that non-compliance will result in a more aggressive response. But the legal foundation for that threat is unclear. If the agents possessed a valid judicial warrant authorizing entry or removal, they would typically announce it immediately and present it upon request. ICE operates under a legal framework that is distinct from criminal law enforcement. ICE agents are authorized to execute administrative warrants, which are issued not by judges but by immigration officials. But administrative warrants alone don't give agents the legal right to come in, especially when the person inside is a U.S. citizen. Federal courts have ruled consistently on this issue. To lawfully enter a home, agents need one of three things: a criminal warrant signed by a judge, a judicial warrant of removal also signed by a judge, or the voluntary consent of an occupant. Without one of these, entry constitutes a Fourth Amendment violation. The threat to remove the woman from her home, absent any mention of judicial authorization, places this encounter in a legally questionable space. The agents may possess an administrative warrant for someone they believe resides at this address, but that warrant does not authorize forced entry. It does not authorize the removal of a United States citizen from her own property. The woman asks another question. Her voice remains steady. "How many of you are out there?" One of the agents responds without hesitation. "There are 3 of us, ma'am." The answer is factual, but the question reveals strategic awareness. She is assessing the situation. She is measuring the imbalance of force. 3 armed federal agents in tactical vests on her porch at night represents an overwhelming physical presence. For a woman alone in her home with an infant, the disparity is stark. The legal standard for voluntary consent is well established. Consent must be given freely, without coercion, duress, or deception, and with full knowledge of the right to refuse. When law enforcement uses language that implies compulsion, when they outnumber and outarm the occupant, the question becomes whether consent obtained in that context can be considered genuinely voluntary. The camera shows the agents standing motionless, waiting. One shifts slightly, his hand brushing his radio. The porch light creates long shadows across the steps. The door remains closed. Then the woman delivers her final response. "Then talk to yourselves. I'm not opening my door. You can leave my property." She asserts her refusal. She invokes her property rights. She does not consent to entry. She does not consent to exit. Under constitutional law, this should conclude the encounter. If the agents lack a judicial warrant and the occupant explicitly refuses consent and requests they leave, their lawful authority to proceed is exhausted. But the agents remain on the property. The door stays closed. The standoff continues. The camera records it all. This type of targeted home enforcement action has become increasingly common in immigration operations. They occur in private residential spaces, often in the evening or early morning hours, when occupants are least prepared to understand or assert their rights. They rely heavily on compliance, and compliance often flows from confusion or fear rather than legal obligation. The problem is structural. Most people do not know the difference between an administrative warrant and a judicial warrant. They do not know that refusing to open the door is a constitutionally protected choice. Law enforcement, by contrast, is fully trained on these distinctions. They know which language generates compliance. They know which tactics create pressure. In this case, the woman possesses knowledge that most occupants do not. She knows to ask for a warrant. She knows to refuse consent. She knows to assert her property rights. She is a nurse. She is accustomed to navigating regulatory systems, understanding authority structures, and distinguishing between legitimate requirements and procedural overreach. Most people would not have that framework. Most would open the door. The agents do not clarify the limits of their authority. They do not inform her that she has the right to refuse. Instead, they apply verbal pressure. This raises a critical legal question.
Where is the line between lawful persuasion and unlawful coercion? Courts recognize a doctrine called constructive entry. Constructive entry occurs when law enforcement does not physically breach the threshold, but uses threats, misrepresentation, or intimidation to compel an occupant to exit the home. Constructive entry can violate the Fourth Amendment just as directly as forcing open a door.
What makes this encounter especially instructive is the absence of physical escalation. The agents do not break the door. They do not claim an emergency. They use verbal tactics, and when those tactics fail, they are left without a clear operational path forward. This exposes a gap. When compliance is not achieved and legal authority is insufficient, what happens next depends entirely on discretion. The camera continues to record. One agent takes a half step back. Another looks toward the street. Small movements, calculated pauses, the kind of body language that suggests reassessment. Recording an encounter does not guarantee accountability. The footage becomes evidence, but evidence requires institutional willingness to investigate and act. In the federal immigration enforcement context, that willingness is inconsistent. ICE operates with significant autonomy. Complaints about ICE conduct are typically routed to internal affairs divisions within the agency itself. External oversight is limited. The context of this visit adds additional concern. The agents arrived based on a tip. Someone reported that a person at this address might be living in the United States without authorization. The report did not identify the woman. It did not name her husband. It provided no verified documentation. It was enough to trigger an enforcement action. It was not enough to secure judicial approval for entry. This raises a foundational question. What is the evidentiary threshold for initiating a home visit? What safeguards exist to prevent actions based on misinformation, personal bias, mistaken identity, or malicious reporting? The woman is a United States citizen. She has every legal right to be in this home, in this country, in the life she has built over more than 2 decades. She has worked in the healthcare system. She is nursing an infant. The visit itself, regardless of outcome, disrupts that life. It creates fear. It undermines her sense of security in her own home. The legal gray area is where this encounter resides. The agents did not force the door. They did not make an arrest. They did not physically enter. From a narrow procedural perspective, they may argue that no violation occurred. They knocked, they spoke, they left when entry was denied. But the broader question is whether their conduct respected the constitutional rights of the occupant, or whether it sought to undermine those rights through intimidation, misrepresentation of authority, and coercive language. The woman's decision to refuse engagement is both an act of self-protection and an exercise of constitutional rights. She does not know what will happen if she steps outside. She does not know if she will be detained, questioned for hours, or separated from her child. She knows only that the threshold of her home is her strongest legal protection. She remains behind it. She remains with her infant, who depends on her for feeding, comfort, and care.
When compliance is not given, the system's limitations become visible. The agents are constrained. They cannot lawfully proceed without crossing constitutional boundaries. They cannot fabricate a warrant. They cannot claim an exigency that does not exist. They choose retreat. But that choice is discretionary. It is not mandated by policy. It is not reviewable. It is not consistent across all encounters or all agents. The camera captures the final moments. One agent steps off the porch, then another. They exchange brief words, inaudible on the recording. The third agent follows. They move toward their vehicles. The porch is empty. The door remains closed. There is no arrest. There is no forced entry. But there is also no formal accountability. There is no review of the language used. There is no inquiry into the accuracy of the initial report. There is no follow-up to ensure that a United States citizen was not subjected to unlawful coercion. The absence of follow-up reflects systemic design. Immigration enforcement prioritizes operational efficiency over procedural transparency. Individual encounters are treated as field operations, not legal proceedings subject to oversight. Documentation is minimal. Accountability is reactive. The burden of proving misconduct falls entirely on the individual. What this footage reveals is the gap between constitutional theory and lived reality. It shows how authority is asserted, how rights are tested, and how outcomes depend not on law, but on knowledge, on composure, on documentation, and on chance. It shows a nurse and mother, a citizen with decades of roots in this country, defending her home against federal agents who offer threats but no warrant, who demand compliance but provide no legal basis. The woman in this case prevailed, but her success was contingent. It depended on her knowledge of the law, her professional training, her ability to remain calm under pressure, and the presence of the security camera. Another person in another situation might have opened the door, might have stepped outside, might have been detained. The law would be the same. The outcome would be different. If constitutional rights depend on individual knowledge and assertiveness, are they truly rights, or are they privileges accessible only to those who know how to claim them? If law enforcement can apply verbal pressure without accountability, can imply authority they do not possess, can operate on tips that are never verified, what meaningful limits remain? The agents leave. The woman remains inside. The neighborhood returns to quiet. The security camera continues recording. But the questions remain. The report that generated this visit was never verified. The agents never clarified their legal authority. The woman was never informed of her right to refuse. The encounter was never formally reviewed. The system moved on. And in another neighborhood, on another evening, another camera will record another knock. Another occupant will face the same choice. Another encounter will test the space between authority and rights. The outcome will depend, once again, not on the law as written, but on what the occupant knows, what they can endure, and whether anyone is watching. This security camera footage doesn't just capture a tense moment. It exposes the gaps in enforcement, the limits of oversight, and the power of knowing your rights. Another family, another night, could face the same test. If breakdowns like this matter to you, subscribe to the channel. We analyze real enforcement encounters with the depth and accountability they deserve. Hit that subscribe button and help us keep doing this work.